Welcome back on air with Chris Shanafelt, and obviously yesterday morning we all woke up to some really big news here in Chicago, and that was the Chicago Bears were able to acquire elite pass rusher, former defensive player of the year, Khalil Mack. They go on to sign him to a 6-year, $141 million deal, $90 million of it guaranteed. And joining me now to discuss this and more is Lester Wiltfong Jr. of WindyCityGridiron.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Wiltfong Jr. Lester, really appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. We're a couple minutes removed from the press conference with Khalil Mack, Ryan Pace, and Matt Nagy. We had you on the show about 10 days or so ago. We brought up the possibility of this happening. Little did I know, at least, that this was actually a real, true possibility and that it would happen just days later. But here we are now. Khalil Mack is a Chicago Bear. Waking up to this news yesterday, man, I mean, what was going through your mind?
I got a text from a buddy, I was in bed sleeping. It's a Saturday, and so I was shocked. I got up, I checked the news, I checked the reports, checked Twitter. I saw it was happening. It was like Christmas. I mean, it was really crazy to have happen like the way it did. There were some rumblings, the last week that it was a possibility, but, the Packers had much more draft capital. The Jets had a little more draft capital. You look at some other teams and you figured the Bears would really have to get a good offer. And, from what I heard and the stuff that's happening, the Bears just, they came to the table with the best offer at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. And they had the money, they got it done, and it's, the rest is history. It's going to be a really fun year this year.
Absolutely. And, what you said is perfect. I mean, it really was kind of like waking up Christmas morning, seeing this big news. And, this is really something you don't see very often, especially somebody of this caliber like Khalil Mack, only 27 years old, heading into year 5 of his career, making this blockbuster trade. Now let's talk about what the Bears had to give up. They did have to give up 2 first-round picks, and of course they're also getting back a second-round pick as well. I mean, a lot of people are kind of knocking the Bears and saying, this is maybe you only give that type of draft capital away for maybe a quarterback, and then you do some research and you see the New Orleans Saints just did something very similar to what the Bears did yesterday. Instead, they got Marcus Davenport, an unproven commodity, while the Bears are getting somebody who, of course, is already proven. Is there any way you look at this and say the Bears, or is there any way you look at this and say John Gruden and the Raiders won this trade? I mean, I don't see how anybody could think that.
There is no way. I mean, you mentioned his age. This is a guy who's 27 years old. He just turned 27, in this year. So the Bears are going to get the 4 or 5 years of his prime. I mean, this is what's coming up here. I mean, he's in his prime, Hall of Fame type player off the edge. And you mentioned the quarterback. Yeah, the quarterback is the most important position on a football team. But if that's the case, then wouldn't the guy that his job is to get the quarterback be the next guy? That's most important, I think it is. And with Khalil Mack, they're getting a Hall of Fame guy. They're getting a Pro Bowl. They're getting a Defensive Player of the Year. And he did all that stuff on an Oakland Raiders team that has not been very good. I mean, the defense has been sketchy to say the least. He has been the one guy they had to concentrate on. Coming to Chicago now in Vic Fangio's scheme, I mean, the sky's the limit. You got Akeem Hicks. You got Floyd opposite Mack now. You got the rookie Roquan Smith there. So this defense has speed, has talent, it has a great scheme. I mean, I'm expecting big things once he gets we get the playbook down. So it's gonna be huge for the Bears this year.
And again, so the Bears received Khalil Mack as well as a 2020 second-round pick and a 2020 conditional fifth-round pick. Raiders get 2 first-round picks from Chicago, a 3rd and a 6th-round pick. Honestly, I'm quite surprised that the Bears were able to get more than just Khalil Mack in this deal.
Yeah.
And I got a quote from today's press conference. Ryan Pace, he goes and says, and I quote, and this is from J.J. Stankovitz, who covers the Chicago Bears for NBC Sports Chicago. He says, when we look at this next draft, our first-round pick is Khalil Mack. Our second-round pick is Anthony Miller, the wide receiver from Memphis, who, of course, they traded back up into the second round this past year to go up and get. Then in 2020, 2 second-round picks. This, again, I would have been perfectly fine if Khalil Mack was the only takeaway for the Bears in this deal, and here they are able to get more. And a lot of people are saying Ryan Pace and the Bears, and it's a term that we've heard very very often recently. They fleeced the Oakland Raiders, and again, obviously, this is a deal that you go and make, and this is a really big statement for Ryan Pace and the Chicago Bears. I mean, this has to mean that at least Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, they think this team is ready to win now.
Yeah, I mean, and then going back to the trade real quick, Pace said a real key to him was getting that second-round pick back. And then, one of our writers at WCG, Josh Thunderbrot, he's actually a college professor. He's a very intelligent guy. He actually crunched the numbers with those trade marks that are floating around for the draft pick, and the Bears came out on top. I mean, that's just when you look at what they traded for, it's huge. So it's going to be really exciting here for the Bears. Just crazy. It's like I said, it's like Christmas. That's like I can't believe they got Khalil Mack. It's just ridiculous.
Again, we're chatting with Lester Wiltfong Jr. of WindyCityGridiron.com, at Wiltfong Jr. on Twitter. And, yeah, Lester, I woke up this morning and I had to check my phone. I had to go to the Chicago Bears Twitter account, make sure all this was actually real and happening, make sure it wasn't a dream. And, this is really a type of player that the Bears really haven't had since Brian Urlacher was playing in his prime. I mean, this is a really big deal for the Chicago Bears, and not only the defense, this obviously helps out the offense as well. When looking at this deal, I mean, you see that the Bears have their guy that they're very confident in, their franchise quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, and we've seen teams like the LA Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles do similar things with their young quarterbacks while they're in their rookie contract. We've seen Seattle do it with Russell Wilson as well.
Yep.
How big is that for the Bears, and how big was that for them to make this type of deal, knowing that they have their quarterback under center on a rookie deal for another 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to spend money right now. I think that's one of the big reasons why the Bears went out and went all in this offseason. I mean, it's been a 3-year rebuild. This is the 4th year now. Ryan Pace redid the roster and has the guys he wants in place. He got the quarterback that he wants in place last year. He has the head coach he wants in place this year. So this is the time to spend money. Robinson, Gabriel, Burton. He dumped a lot of money in the offense, and now with Mack, he puts a bunch of money in the defense. So this is the time to make the moves, and Ryan Pace is really aggressive, and he did it.
Of course, Vic Fangio, formerly the defense coordinator in San Francisco. A lot of people are kind of comparing the two defenses, the Bears today, to the San Francisco 49ers of about 4 or 5 years ago. That 49ers team was stacked and was, that was kind of their specialty, was getting after the quarterback, headlined by Aldon Smith. They had Patrick Willis, Ahmad Brooks, Justin Smith on the defensive line. And now you look at the Bears' defensive crew, at least on the line. I mean, you of course got Khalil Mack. You got Leonard Floyd playing opposite side of him. Not Leonard Floyd playing opposite side of Khalil Mack. It's Khalil Mack playing opposite side of Leonard Floyd. And now you of course got Eddie Goldman, who kind of seems to be like the forgotten man in this mix. Akeem Hicks. Of course, you got rookie first-round pick Roquan Smith. I mean, is that a legit comparison? Does that comparison make sense looking back to Vic Fangio's 49ers crew he was working with years ago?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, the thing right now is you have to wait and see what Roquan Smith will be. But I mean, if you look at what he did in college, I mean, you assume he's going to be a really good player in the pros. He has the speed. He has the aggressiveness. He's a good tackler. Him in the middle with Danny Trevathan is going to be really good what Vic Fangio wants. He wants those two really good inside backers, and that's what he has now. But now he has the guys off the edge. He has the guys up front as well. So this front seven, if you look all around the league, you have to compare it. It's comparable with the top front sevens anywhere. And now if they get the stuff in the back end with, Amos and Jackson and Fuller and Prince and Mukamara, this could be a top 5, top 3. I mean, this could be the best defense in the league if things work out for them. So, I mean, it's, the sky is the limit for this team.
The Bears were 7th in the league last season when it came to quarterback sacks. I believe they're 19th when it came to pressures. who benefits most off of this deal? Who benefits most by Khalil Mack playing defense for the Chicago Bears? Is it Leonard Floyd? Is it the secondary? I mean, who do you think it is that benefits most from Khalil Mack wearing the Chicago Bears uniform?
I think you're going to see Akeem Hicks have a career year. I mean, his best year has been 8.5 sacks. You got to think this last season. But with teams not able to double him, they have to pay attention to Mack. You're going to see Hicks. You're going to see Floyd. You know, you're going to see Roy Robertson Harris, benefit. I mean, he brings that element to this Bears defense that they have not had. Since when? When's the last guy they had? Since Pepper, since they had him. He impacts the entire defense as a whole. There'll be more picks, more turnovers, more sacks, more pressures. Just him alone being this type of player, it's going to be huge for the entire defense.
The Bears haven't had a player with 10 or more sacks since it was Willie Young back in 2014. And here, of course, they get a big-time playmaker, big-time pass rusher in Khalil Mack, the former number 5 overall pick out of Buffalo, and now one of the best defensive players in the NFL. There was questions asked to Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace in the press conference a few minutes ago, Lester. Do you think Khalil Mack will be ready 1 week from today, Sunday Night Football against Green Bay at Lambeau Field, taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers? I mean, it's a hell of a way to debut your Chicago Bears career. All signs kind of point to Khalil Mack, at least from what I've heard, probably playing. But you gotta think there's gonna be some type of rotation. He'll obviously be the best defensive player on that field that night. But we gotta see some type of rotation, right? I mean, this is a guy that has missed all of preseason, all of training camp. He's been holding out from the Oakland Raiders. We all know about that story. How much and how soon should we expect out of Khalil Mack?
Maybe 10, 15 snaps, I'd imagine. I'm not sure they're going to play him a lot. And it's all going to depend on what happens in practice this week. I mean, they go to practice tomorrow. They'll work him out. They'll see how his hamstrings are and everything with tightness. He has been working out, so you assume he's going to be in shape. Just got to make sure he's in good enough shape to play enough where he's not going to get hurt. That's the one thing that they talked about at the press conference. If he's able to give him anything, he'll be out there for sure. So I'd imagine if it's third down, they'll put him out there to get after Aaron Rodgers.
Again, Lester Wiltfong Jr. of WindyCityGridiron.com. And Lester, it's no secret I'm a Bears fan. I do try to take my Bears goggles off and look at things realistically at times, though. But this really seems to be a team that, and I know the San Francisco 49ers are kind of the hyped-up team in the NFC. The Bears right behind them, it seems like, at least nationally. But what the Bears have been able to do, and you certainly don't win games just by winning free agency. It has to translate on the field. But what they've been able to do in free agency and what we've seen so far from some of their 2018 draft picks, specifically a guy like Anthony Miller, the improvement of this roster when looking back from just a year ago to now, it's really quite incredible. And this, even before this acquisition of Khalil Mack went down, I was thinking 7, maybe 8, maybe 9 wins.
Yeah.
What's the ceiling for this Bears team now with Khalil Mack under contract?
I think you have to really put them in the playoff picture. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, I think it's going to be a disappointment. I mean, I was like you. I had them in that 7, 8, 9 win range. I figured that at the top they'd be a 9-win team. At the very least, they'd be a team that's in the playoff hunt going into the end of the season. But I think with a game changer like Khalil Mack, what he brings to a team and to the defense, and then also what he's going to help the offense with, because it's going to have more chance for the offense to do stuff as well, because the defense is much better. You got to figure they're going to be in the mix. But the wild card is obviously it's a really, really, really tough division. The Packers are going to be good. The Lions are improved. The Vikings are good. It's a tough division, probably the toughest division in football. So it would not surprise me to see them just miss out. But, they got to be right there. 9 wins, 10 wins. It's got to be what they're shooting for now.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, it's really hard. It's a lot to take in. Khalil Mack, a Chicago Bear, and you wonder exactly how close he was to becoming maybe a Green Bay Packer. And, a question was asked to him about that. Obviously, he deflected that to his agent. Only his agent knows exactly
Yeah.
how close they were in discussions over there. But again, big news. Khalil Mack is a Chicago Bears, 6 years, $141 million deal, $90 million guaranteed. He is the top paid defensive player in the NFL. Just days after Aaron Donald inked his new deal with the LA Rams. And few more questions for you, Lester, and then we'll let you go. And I kind of want to look around at some of the other things that were touched on in today's press conference. Yesterday, the Bears had to get down to 53 guys on the roster. They had to do a lot of trimming down. And today they decided to release Horonis Grasu. Any cuts from yesterday or today that kind of caught you off guard?
The stuff at corner I was a little surprised by. I'm surprised they kept Marcus Cooper. I'm surprised they kept Kevin Tolliver, the undrafted rookie. But with Tolliver, yeah, there's upside there. I think they don't want to expose him to the waivers. I don't think he had the best preseason, but the stuff he did in camp was really good. So I think they really are really good with what they have there. Again, with Cooper though, I haven't seen it. I mean, he does have the starting experience. And I guess if you want a guy that can fill it in a pinch on the outside, I guess you could do a lot worse than Cooper if you had to. So I think Cooper's spot is still kind of iffy there. If something happens along the next few weeks here, they may see a move with him. But other than that, I wasn't really too shocked. They only kept 5 on the D-line at first, but the report today is they're going to bring back Nick Williams, who's more of a 5-tech guy, not really a backup nose tackle. But I think with Mack in tow now, I think you may see a few more 4-man fronts from the Bears anyway. Plus, they spend so much time in nickel. Having a true nose tackle is not really as important as it was back in the old days. So not a lot of surprises.
And of course, how can I forget? Shame on me. DeAndre Hall traded to Philadelphia for a 7th-round pick. One last thing, Lester. I thought it was interesting. Ryan Pace noted that Adam Shaheen, the second-year tight end, he'll be going to IR, but he is a candidate to return later on in the season. So that's an interesting nugget there. It's an interesting time to be a Chicago Bears fan. Khalil Mack, Chicago Bears, 6-year deal, $41 million deal, $90 million guaranteed. Lester, really appreciate you taking some time chatting. Minutes after the Bears big press conference, what were kind of your takeaways from what Mack had to say meeting the press? I mean, even looking at my Twitter timeline, it seemed like a lot of people really enjoyed what he had to say and kind of how he delivered his message. It seems like, obviously, the contract was a big deal, but it really does seem like he's happy to be a Chicago Bear. He understands the legacy, especially playing defense, playing linebacker in Chicago. He noted, watching highlights of the '85 Bears. And he said he's ready to win, and that he knows Chicago's ready to win. Any takeaways from what Khalil Mack said today?
It's not a press conference with the new Bear unless they ask about the '85 Bears. So that's a given. So, but no, I think he's awesome. I mean, he's really excited. He's fired up. He knows a lot of the players on the team already. He mentioned a bunch by name of the players that he wants to play with. He mentioned Fuller, Hicks, Trevathan. He mentioned the rookie Smith. So. He mentioned Floyd as well, so he understands what he's coming into. He's really trying to get to his playbook right away, which was something he mentioned at the press conference as well. So I'm sure as soon as the press conference ended, he went straight to the book, straight to studying, straight to Vic Fangio, and they're going to get him up to speed as quick as possible and to get those reps in this Sunday night.
Hey, Lester, one last thing. We all know when it comes to offensive line play, there are none better than yourself. And this was a discussion we had just a couple weeks ago on the podcast, Lester. Offensive line. It looks like as of right now, Eric Kush will be starting game 1 at left guard, and maybe James Daniels will be the backup. Since our last conversation, we've had 2 preseason games played against the Chiefs, against the Bills. And, James Daniels got a lot of playing time. Is Harry Hiestand, Matt Nagy, are they doing the right thing if indeed Eric Kush is starting at guard week 1 against Green Bay?
From what they said, they weren't comfortable with James Daniels recognizing the blitzes and the fronts that he's seeing, which I can understand. If that's the case, I understand, having him come along a little slower. Kush, Cush is what he is. He's a vet. To me, he's better as a backup role. But if you got to start him in a pinch, that's fine. I think they're going to start him until James Daniels is up to speed as far as the looks that he's seeing up there. And then once they're comfortable with Daniels getting the spot, they're going to make that switch. I'd imagine maybe 3-4 weeks tops, but we're going to see the rookie in there eventually.
Lester, thanks a bunch, man. Before I let you go, please tell the listeners where they can check out your work at.
WindyCityGridiron.com, Twitter at Wiltfong JR. And you can find my podcast on iTunes at T-Formation Conversation. I got a couple of them coming up this week if everything comes through with me. So I really appreciate being on the show, Chris.
Lester, you're the man. Thank you very much. Have a great day, man.